Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into Hashtag The Movies. I am your host, TV Chips. On this podcast, we break down all of the films that are coming out this week. So let's get into it. 2017 was a crazy year for film. 2018 hopes to be just as good of a year for films quality-wise. Hopefully the behind-the-scenes stuff not as crazy. So this week, we're going to break down all of the films coming out on January 5th, 2018. First up, we have the national release of the film Molly's Game. This was a film that came out around Christmas time to get itself award season eligible. Don't know that it worked all that well. It does have a lot of buzz surrounding it. This is the first movie ever directed by Mr. Aaron Sorkin. He is one of the most well-known and most well-respected authors and playwrights and screenwriters in all of Hollywood. This is his go-to first project as a film director. It is was based on the true story of Molly Bloom. She ran a high-stakes poker game that had athletes, actors, musicians, the Russian mob. She was eventually shut down by the FBI, and this follows the events of that between her and her lawyer. Molly is played by Jessica Chastain, and her lawyer played by Idris Elba. They are the two main actors in this one. The concern here with this movie is that both Jessica Chastain and Idris Elba, while fantastic actors, have not shown the ability to really open a film themselves. They always need somebody else with them. So hopefully they're able to carry each other through on this one. It looks like a very interesting film. I think the allure of Aaron Sorkin and his directorial debut is going to bring a lot of people to this movie that maybe might want to skip it. It does have a very good cast, like I said, outside of Jessica Chastain and Idris Elba. Michael Cera plays a wealthy, famous young poker player that befriends Molly's character, or Jessica Chastain's character, Molly. Kevin Costner and Chris O'Dowd, who I am a big fan of, also round out the cast. It looks like a good movie. It is getting a little bit of award season recognition, and I think a lot of that has to do with the pieces at play here. The movie is rated R for language, drug content, and some violence, and that has opened in limited release right around Christmas time, but now it is officially in nationwide release. Next up, we have Insidious, The Last Key. This is the fourth chapter of the Insidious series, this is a very interesting horror film series. All four of these films have been rated PG-13, which you don't get that much in horror films nowadays. But yeah, it's worked well for this franchise. All three movies have done fairly well. This movie does bring back the character played by Lynn Shay, who is a parapsychologist or something along those lines. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. And this time she's called on to investigate the home that she lives in, which is a plot twist from there. The Insidious movies have done fairly well. Like I said, for being PG-13, I think that really puts them into a category all their own. And, not bringing back all of the characters from the originals, or not bringing back the original director, James Wan, or even the director of the third installment in the franchise, can be kind of risky, but it's paid off. These movies are relatively cheap to produce. Lynn Shay is a very talented actress, but she doesn't command a high salary, so I think this works out for them. So Insidious Last Key is also in national release. It is directed by Adam Robital, who is, for the most part, he is a first-time filmmaker. This is his first big movie in national release. Again, it is rated PG-13 for disturbing thematic content, violence, and terror, and some brief, strong language. If your kids are interested in the horror movies, these are actually pretty decent movies to start out with. They do amp up the fear and the scare and the tension, but there's not a lot of blood, guts, and gore, which I think a lot of films overdo it with nowadays. Those are the only two films that are in national release this week. We do have a lot of films that are coming out in a limited release. A lot of dumped films that, studios have been holding on to for a couple of years, or they didn't know what to do with. So they've kind of just, kind of plopped them down here at the beginning of January, which is relatively a thin month for movie releases. Some of the big ones that are coming out are The Strange Ones. This is directed by Christopher Ratcliffe and Lauren Wilkinson. This is based off of a short film that they made a few years ago about two young men who go on a vacation and things go a little bit different. This version stars Alex Pettyfer as a older brother of the younger character. Things aren't what they seem. The characters in this, we don't know the full story. It's kind of one of those, not everything is what it seems. Not everything is what it should be. We don't know who's what, who says what, who's doing what. We're kind of getting pieces and, as the movie goes along. And then at the end, we get a big reveal. Sometimes these movies force that big reveal. This one looks very interesting. The trailer gives it a lot to work with. Alex Pettyfer is a relatively good actor. He's pretty young in his career, so he doesn't have the gravitas of some other actors who might have been able to pull this off a little bit better, but in the right hands, this could be a fairly decent film. It is rated R. It is a thriller, and it is in limited release. It should get a national release somewhere along those lines, but it's not gonna wind up in too many major theaters. This is something you're gonna probably want to look to the independent theaters to really find a showing on. Also, we've got Devil's Gate, which is another horror thriller. This one is currently unrated as of the time of recording this. I don't know if it's gotten a rating in the meantime. This revolves the story of a couple of FBI agents looking for a missing woman. They uncover some dark forces, if you will, and things go a little crazy. This stars Milo Ventimiglia. He's the big name in this one. The director of this film, Clay Staub, has been an AD on some very big films. He worked on the recent Thing movie that came out a few years ago. He's worked on 300. He's worked on Dawn of the Dead. So he's got a very extensive movie background, but I think this is his first big film release. It is in limited release. Currently it is unrated. My guess is it's going to get slapped with an R when it does eventually get a rating. So there's that. Another one that's been just kind of trying to find a place in this world is the movie Stratton. This is an action film. It is based off of the book series that was written by Doug Falconer, who is a former British elite special forces commando. And so his main character is, of course, a British service commando. He is tracking an international terror cell. This stars Dominic Cooper, who is a fantastic actor, just kind of looking for his niche in this market. It's directed by Simon West, who is a relatively well-known director. He's directed everything from Con Air, The Mechanic. He directed The Expendables 2. He directed the original Lara Croft film. Simon West knows his way around a big-budget action film. This seems to be kind of a British version of maybe like one of the Jack Ryan books. To me, this seems like a British version of Jack Ryan, and those movies have done very well. Dominic Cooper is likable. And he's a very good actor. So this movie, I think if people go see it, it could have a John Wick kind of effect where it doesn't necessarily look like it's going to be all of that much, but it could have a nice little cult following. That is currently in limited release. And again, like I said, that is rated R. Just real quick, a few others that are coming out. Surge of Power. That is a kind of a action comedy farce. It's got a whole slew of D-level celebrities from the 70s and 80s like Linda Blair, Lou Ferrigno, Eric Roberts. It's it's one of those films that seems like it's not taking itself too seriously, but at the same time, it's taking itself far too seriously. That one is rated PG-13. We also have Madtown, which is a drama thriller about a man who is haunted by some demons from his past. This also stars Milo Ventimiglia, so he's got 2 films out this week, starting out 2018. Pretty big time for him. This is also rated R. Another notable actor from this one is Amanda Aday, who is the daughter of Meatloaf. So there's an interesting little cast here. This one does look like a very interesting film. Not sure where the twists and turns are, but it looks like it could be a good film. I do hope that this gets a little bit more of a national release and some publicity. I think people could like to see that. And this time of year, there's not a lot out there, so this is a film that could get some feet. I would definitely recommend checking this one out if you get a chance. It does look like it could be pretty good. Rounding out the week, we have Goldbuster. This is a Chinese comedy. This one looks really, really funny. It's basically kind of set in a post-apocalyptic style world. The residents of a apartment building have refused to leave because their landlord is threatened to lock them out so that he could sell the property. He's going to some great extensive lengths to get the tenants to leave, and they're not really buying it. This is an interesting film. This is directed by Sandra Kwan Yu Ning, and I hope I pronounced that right, but I probably did not. She's a really well-known Chinese actress, and now she is taking her turn behind the camera, which is pretty big if you think about it, because being a actress in the Chinese market, we don't see a lot of diversification from those talents, and so to see that getting a international release is a very positive sign. The trailer, hard to follow with the subtitles, but it does look relatively funny. This is a film that I would probably want to check out if I had a chance. Don't know that you're going to want to see this at the theater. Don't know that you'll ever get the chance to, but if you did, it looks relatively good. Like I said, it's a good comedy. This one is currently unrated as far as I could tell, but it's in limited release just now, so hopefully if it does get a national release, it can get a rating attached to it. That way it can play in more theaters. And then the final movie of the week is Blame. This is a drama. This is written, directed, edited, starring actress Quinn Shepard, another nice little female actress turned director. We see this so much with male actors, so to see a female actress doing this is kind of a nice thing, and it looks to be a modern retelling of The Crucible, if you will, with a lot of self-aware things poking into that as well. It's about a teacher, and he has a taboo relationship with a student, and the events of the film mirror the events of the book The Crucible, as these students are studying the book The Crucible. So a very interesting film. Not a big cast, not a big budget on that one, but it's probably going to get some play in some independent theaters, and if you see it, this looks like one that could be one worth checking out. So that's it for the major releases this week, and again, the minor releases, like I said, I would say if you got a chance, the movies coming out this week, I would definitely check out Molly's Game. Like I said, the sum of the parts looks pretty good. I don't know if they execute properly, but you can't go wrong with Aaron Sorkin. You can't go wrong with Jessica Chastain. You can't go wrong with Idris Elba. So hopefully all 3 of them combined create for a very well done movie. If you're into the horror, Insidious is a good pick. Like I said, it is rated PG-13, so appropriate for some of the younger horror fans out there who you might not want seeing a R-rated slasher film. And then just a bunch of little movies here and there. I would definitely check out Madtown if you have a chance. I think based on the trailers, it looks like a very interesting movie that could that could see a lot of good things. January is a pretty light month. We don't get a lot of big releases. We will start to see a few. Next week we have films like Paddington and The Post coming out. Mostly the month of January is the award season movies. We see those coming into more of a national release dates. So for the week of January 5th, 2018, those are the films coming out in theaters. Thank you for tuning into Hashtag the Movies. I will see you guys next week. I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. If you have any suggestions or comments, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at TV Chips across all the social medias. And I will be glad to answer your questions, to respond to your feedback and criticisms and all of that stuff. So again, thank you very much for tuning in. I will see you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye now.